Hey, what's going on, guys, and welcome back. So today we're going to be talking about a subject that is probably one of the least favorite subjects for photographers to talk about, and that's blogging. I feel like blogging is something that we all know we should be doing, but not so many of us actually do. For a couple of reasons. One, I feel like a lot of us just don't find it that fun to do. A lot of us don't necessarily see the value in it up front. But nonetheless, I do think it is an important aspect of running your business and updating your website. And while we're all stuck at home and doing this quarantine thing, I do believe that going back and going through your hard drives and pulling out those images and actually blogging some of those weddings and those engagements could overall just be a good thing for you. Now, the few of the reasons why I think it's good to blog in general, not only will you be able to, write really detailed articles on things that actually matter and are useful for your couples, and you'll get great SEO benefit from that, but from a much more practical standpoint, at least from your couple's standpoint, is your portfolio and your website in general are probably going to be mostly filled with images that have a very large emotional impact, something that when people see that, they see an image that makes them go like, "Oh," or really strikes them, in their heart somewhere, and that really compels them to want moments like that captured at their own day. But they'll also obviously find images that have a high degree of wow factor, like, wow, that's an incredible image because of either the lighting or the time of day or the way you compose it or whatever it may be. But then there's a lot of other images throughout the wedding day, though, that can be very beautiful images, but that don't necessarily belong in your portfolio or in the rest of your website. So having a blog where people can go and look through previous weddings and previous engagements and actually see a more complete view of what an entire day worth of work would look like and what they can expect from you when they book with you and then eventually have you photograph their wedding. I think a blog is great for that, and it's a great place to show off those images that don't necessarily belong in your portfolio itself. So there's a lot of other really great reasons for blogging as well, but for the purpose of today's video, those are kind of really the main ones I want to talk about. Now, with that being said, though, I know for myself, for a very long time, blogging was something that I kind of stayed away from, specifically weddings and engagements, largely just because creating the image collages are very difficult with some of the tools that were out there in the past, and they were clunky, and I didn't like the way they were. You had to pick out your layout before actually starting to place your images, which makes no sense. That's completely backwards. And some of the tools that are out there for creating those image collages are just very, very expensive. It just was not something that I enjoy doing. Now, with this new tool, it's definitely something that's made it a lot easier. And the tool that I want to talk about today is it's a web app, or not even a web app. It's an actual legit app that's called Narrative. Now, I first heard about Narrative from another photographer who goes by the name of because his actual name is Sam Hurd. Sam Hurd's a great photographer, really talented guy. If you've never seen his work before, I definitely highly encourage you to go check it out. I'll leave links to his Instagram down below, but he's really, really good at finding really cool, unique compositions. He's really talented with double exposures, and just in general, seems like a very cool guy. Again, I'll leave his links down below, but I actually heard him mention this tool a while back. And I checked it out, and I have to say I really, really fell in love with it from a blogging standpoint. It's made the process of creating blogs way, way easier for me. And because of that, it's actually been something that has allowed me to go back and, one, update old blogs without too much trouble, as well as create new ones fairly easily. So we're going to walk through the process of actually using this tool and actually walk you guys through kind of the broader process of how I blog so that you're best set up to use this tool and hopefully make the process of creating these blogs for you and your website way, way easier and way quicker. So with all that being said, let's actually go ahead and jump over into the computer here, and we're going to walk you through the entire process that I use to create a blog, like a wedding or an engagement blog from scratch. So without any further ado, let's go ahead and jump on over to the computer and get started with that. All right, guys, so here we are in Lightroom. So the process of using this app that we're gonna actually use here a little bit later, the process of using it and using it in a way that I think it makes a lot of sense and is very logical and that will help you in the future is really, it all begins here in Lightroom. So the first thing that I do when it comes to blogging that really makes things way easier for yourself down the road is it actually begins with the way that you name your photos in Lightroom. So I've got this engagement shoot that I did last fall with Sarah and Chris here. And if you look down here, you'll see the way I actually do my naming convention for photos. And this isn't how I used to do it. This is something that I've recently started doing with weddings and engagements. Is I basically SEO out my image titles right from the very get-go. I used to have a way of naming files that was something like the date with a hyphen followed by like the name of the shoot, something that was descriptive of it. In most cases, it was just the couple's names. And then after that, it would be like a number appended to the back end of that. So it would be like, like 2019 0101 hyphen, Mike and Susie -1, and then it would just go all the way through, from the first image to the last image with that tailing number. And that's how I used to do it. But the problem with that, though, is that kind of name isn't useful to Google from an SEO standpoint. And you want to give your images file names that are going to be useful to Google, because when you upload your images to your website, your portfolio, your blog, that file name is going to by default become your alt tag. And the alt tag is basically what Google is going to use in order to, one, know what the image contains itself, but also to know what or who to serve that image to when somebody does an image search. So by having your actual file name structured in a way that's somewhat descriptive of the shoot or the image, it's only going to help you in terms of an SEO standpoint. And also it's going to help you down the road when it comes to possibly updating your blogs with new edits and whatnot using the narrative tool that we're going to talk about in a minute. So the first things first is, have a good file name that is going to be somewhat SEO friendly. Now, what I basically do is I try to use keywords that are relevant to the shoot. Now, in this particular case, we did this engagement shoot near Colvin House, which is a wedding event venue near me in Chicago. It's got Chicago obviously in the name, so that's a keyword by itself. Engagement is a keyword by itself, but also Chicago engagement together is kind of a keyword phrase. And then photos. So again, it's going to tell Google that this is at Colvin House, Chicago, that this is also a Chicago engagement, and that these are Chicago engagement photos. So it is generally telling Google what this image is and what it's about. And if somebody were to go into Google Images and do a search for, say, Colvin House Chicago engagement photos, there you go. This is going to be a likely photo that Google is going to serve up in the image search results for somebody searching either that phrase or phrases related to that. So that's the first thing I do, is I come up with basically an SEO friendly naming convention for all my photos. And then what I'll do is I'll go through my entire gallery of images that I deliver, and I'll pull out just the images that I actually want to put into my blog, something that I feel like tells the story of the day without having a lot of duplicate images. Now, I've actually already gone through here and basically called this gallery and picked out the images that I want to use for my blog, and I've labeled them with 3 stars. Now, that process is already done, but that would be something that you would need to go through as well. But once you get to this point where you've gone through, you've called your wedding or your engagement session, you've edited everything, and you've picked out the ones that you want to put into your blog, and you've got them selected and put them either into another collection, or you just have them starred, or you have them flagged, or you just got them identified in Lightroom in whatever way, then what you'll want to do obviously is go ahead and export them. So what we're going to do is we're going to, first of all, we're going to create a folder that we're going to place these images in. Now, where you place the folder is actually going to be relatively important, again, to make things simpler for you down the road. And again, this is all to make the whole blogging process as easy as possible in the long term. So let's go ahead and create a folder, and I'll walk you guys through my rationale for that. So, all right, so you can see here I have on one of my drives, I have a folder that's named blog. So anything that is going to eventually become a blog, this is where I'm going to store all my images. Now, if I go and drill down into here, you'll see I further have it broken down into couple shoots, engagement shoots, proposals, resources and tips, and then weddings. So I keep everything kind of segmented that way, again, to keep everything organized and very easy. Now, this is an engagement, so I'm going to double click on that. And then you can see I've got some of my other blogs I've already done in here, and these are all separate folders. So I'm going to go ahead and create a new folder, and I'm going to give this a name that's representative. So I'm just going to give it the couple's name. And then this is where these blog images are then going to live forever. Now, in the future, if I ever want to replace these images, let's say I either want to add an image to a blog, or I just want to, say, re-edit all the images in a blog, I'm going to go back, I'm going to re-export these images back to this folder. So that's important to know. this does matter. When you use the blogging tool Narrative later on, it is going to basically create a path back to a folder where it's going to pull in those images, and it's going to have a dynamic link back to this folder pretty much forever. So you never really want to move these folders once you create them. So I definitely highly recommend that, again, you find a place where you want your blog folder to live, create your structure, and then don't change it, because once you change it, you're going to break those links. So we're going to go ahead and do this. We've got our folder now, and then I'm going to go back here. I'm going to go ahead and Command A for all, Control A if you're on Windows, and then again, Shift Command E to export. All right, so now we've got our export dialog up here, and now I do have a preset for blogging, and it's right here, so I'm gonna click on that. And then as far as settings for blogs, what I have is I've got JPEG, sRGB for color space. I've got the quality set to 80, and then I've got image resizing, resize to fit long edge at 2000 pixels, and a resolution of 300. This honestly for web probably could be 72, but I don't really notice a big difference for file size, so I just leave it at 300. And that's really it. That's all I really do. I find that these settings give me a good balance between still having good high quality images that still look great on your website while not having image sizes that are too large. One thing you don't want on your website are really, really large images, because it's going to slow down your website and it's going to kill your SEO. You do not want slow page loads. You want really quick page loads. So make sure you find a good balance there. If you can go lower, go lower. Basically, you want your file sizes to be as small as they possibly can while still looking really good. So, but for me, this is what I found that I'm happy with. So I've got this folder here. Now, as far as the preset goes, I have a very basic file path saved as part of this preset. And then what I do in here is I just go in and choose. You can see it's going to pop me off at this main level for blog. I'm going to go into engagements. I'm going to find redo that. And I'm going to go in here, find the folder I created, which has the couple's name, Sarah and Chris. Hit choose, and then now I've got my file path set, and then I'm going to go ahead and hit export, and then wait for however many images, 51 images to export to that folder. And then once that's done, we'll pick back up and we'll start actually creating the blog itself in the blog tool. Okay, cool. So now that all the images are exported from Lightroom, the first thing you need to do is you're actually going to need to download this program. So this is the website itself. It's called Narrative.so. Again, I'll leave it in the links down below, so you can just click there. And again, I'm not associated with this website anyway. I don't have any affiliate links or anything like that. They don't know anything about me. I just simply like the tool, and I just want to share it with you guys. And so you guys have a way to maybe spend your time in quarantine doing some stuff that's going to be beneficial for you guys and your business. But at any rate, guys, so this is where you're going to want to go to download it. They do have basically, I don't even think it's a free trial. I think the way it works is essentially the first 3 blogs I think are free. Let's go to pricing and look at that really quick. So they do have, so the way it generally works though is it's basically like a grow with your business type of model where like the first couple blogs are free, and then once you get above I think 3, then you go into light, and then it's like 3 to 10, and then like 10 to 50, and then like 50 or more you go up in the pro account. And you can see even the pro account, $15 a month, it's not super expensive compared to some of the other tools as photographers we use that are out there. And in the end, I think just having something that's going to allow you to actually get some stuff done is going to be, or get your blogs done and out there on your website rather than not done at all. I definitely think it's worth it. But you can make that call for yourself. As far as integrations, they do, sorry if I sound like an idiot right now. I'm trying to think and look through this at the same time. As far as integrations, you can use it with WordPress. You can use it with Squarespace, Wix. I'm not sure about some of the other tools out there. I know a lot of photographers are on Showit. I'm assuming you can probably make it work. I know Showit does have some interchangeability with WordPress, so I'm not sure if the WordPress plugin will work there as well. But nonetheless, check it out for yourself. If you want to use it, use it. If not, there are other tools that are out there, but this is the one that I found actually allows me to actually create blogs without too much trouble. So anyway, you can do the start trial, try it for free, do your thing. And then so once you have your blog set up, you're going to, I'll open up the app here. All right, so once you've downloaded Narrative, you're gonna open it up and it's gonna look something like this. Now, obviously I've got some galleries in here that you're not gonna have. This will all be blank for you, but once you go to create your new gallery or your very first gallery or your blog, whatever you wanna call it, you're gonna go up here in the top right-hand corner and hit create new post. And then it's gonna give you this screen right here. So now at this point, what you're gonna do is obviously enter in your post name. This doesn't have to be anything too crazy. I'm just gonna give it something pretty generic, like the couple's name. And then the next thing you're gonna do is you're going to select the folder. Now, like I mentioned earlier, when you're exporting your images from Lightroom, it's very important that you make sure that wherever you put this folder, it's not a place that you intend on moving it in the future. this is going to be a dynamic link between Narrative and that folder, meaning that if you ever change the images in the folder, let's say you go to Lightroom and you re-export all the images with a new edit, Narrative is going to pick up all that and it's going to pull in all those updated images. So every time you open Narrative, it's recreating that link and it's pulling in the most recent version of those images into Narrative. So that way, if you ever want to update your galleries or your blogs or whatnot, you can, you can, which is super useful. So I'm gonna go ahead and hit select folder. You can see I basically already have it pulled up right here, but you're just gonna navigate to wherever it is, hit open, and it's going to create that file path. Once you've done that, you can go ahead and create post, and then it's gonna load in your images on the left-hand side. And then you're gonna have your blog builder right here. So this is where you're going to drag and drop your images to create your image collage. And this is where I really love this tool, is it makes it super, super easy to build out this image collage. Again, I've tried using other tools in the past and they were just, although they were maybe free or very cheap or whatever, they were also just very, very unuser friendly, and I really did not like using them, which really dissuaded me from actually creating these blogs. So I really love this aspect of this tool. This is obviously one of the things I love the most about it. But once you have it, you've got your images here on the left-hand side that you exported that you can then pull in here. Now, at this point, you don't have to use all these if you don't want to, but you do have them available to you. You can start building your blog from that. If you want to ever update the folder, you can go up here. You can actually show in Finder. So if you forget where the file path is, you can basically pull it back. You can change the folder location. So if you ever do decide to change the folder location, you can do that. And I've done that in the past when I first got started, but I did run into some issues. I contacted support at one point and they did, I feel like, fix the issue with an update. But again, for me, I would say just make sure you set those folders where you want them to be to begin with, and you'll save yourself a little bit of a headache. If you ever do add any images to this gallery, let's say you forgot an image, you can always export another image into that folder, hit refresh gallery, and then it'll add it into this pane right here where you'll then have it available to use in your blog. And then reset cache, to be honest, I don't really know what that does. I'll just be flat out honest with you in that regards. My guess is probably it has something to do with the cache of which version of the image it's pulled in. But nonetheless, the main use of this tool is creating the collage. So let's get started doing that. So the first thing I'm gonna do is just start dragging in images. So I can drag in the first image. And then this is the part that I love about it, is it just makes it super easy to pull in other images. So right there, you'll see the little blue line that'll highlight. You can drag in another. Let's say I want to pull in, say, this one, and then you can see where the little blue line is. It lights up either above an image, to the right, up above it, down below it, and it just tells you right where it's going to place that image. So I've got a vertical right there. Let's say I want another vertical on the right-hand side of it. I'll just drag it in. Looks like I missed it a little bit. Let's try that again. And then there you go. And then it places them side by side. And if you wanted to, you could do a third one right in the middle. If you want to do like a 3x3, I don't want to do that. What I'll probably do is drag this one below it, and then you can just, as easy as that, you can rearrange everything, and it just makes this process so freaking easy. I really cannot stress how much of a pain in the ass some of the other tools I've used are for creating blogs, and this really is way easier than anything else I've ever used. And yeah, so I mean, you can literally just kind of drag and drop and change things around as you need to. Yeah, I freaking love it. So we're gonna do another vertical right there. I'm gonna drag this guy in over to the right. I love showing that emotion. I like these little detail shots. So again, like right here, you've got these two verticals. Now what I can do is, you can see I got the one little short blue line underneath this one. So if I wanted to place this image directly underneath that one, I could do that. Or if I wanted to move it, I could do it underneath the other image. Or if I decide I don't like any of those options, I could just drag it back out. You'll see the big blue, you'll see the line go across the entire width of the blog, and then it'll just make it on its own line by itself. And then let's say like I don't like the placements of these two images, maybe I want them flipped. I can just take this one and hover over the other one, and then it'll just completely flip the orientation of them. But I do like it the way it was, so let me go ahead and put that back. So yeah, definitely love this tool. It makes this so easy and so freaking quick. So I'm gonna go ahead and speed this up. I'm gonna build out the rest of this blog, and then we'll continue with the rest of the process. All right, guys, so that's pretty much the entire process. You can see I didn't use all of the images for this particular blog, but that's okay. Like, just use as many as you think you need in order to create the blog that you want, and to tell the story as best as you think you want to, or that you need to. And then once you have this done, really there's a lot more you can do in Narrative than I actually do with it myself. To be honest, I would definitely not consider myself an expert in terms of all of the things that you can do in Narrative. There's a lot you can do from an SEO standpoint. You can put in meta descriptions. You can do things like create animations. You can do light boxes. One thing I do turn on when I come in here is I go into include Pixie or Pinterest buttons. We're going to get deeper into this as we move along. I've got some more videos coming out that's going to walk through how I use this, and you're going to kind of see how all of the big pieces fit together in terms of using Narrative, and then using these Pinterest buttons and some of the other things that I'm talking about as we go along. And that all kind of begins with the file naming thing I talked about at the very beginning of this video. So I think over the course of the next few videos, you're going to kind of see how a lot of these different pieces all fit together to make blogging and a lot of the day-to-day tedious work, so to speak, of SEO and actually putting stuff out on the website can be simplified a little bit. So enough of that. So small buttons, position top left. So that's going to put a little Pinterest button on the top left for the on the website and the blog itself. Now Lightbox, that is essentially, it just gives the ability, if somebody were to click on the image, it'll allow the image to pop out and go full screen. I'm not going to do that. I typically don't. Facebook comments I leave off. I really just do include Pinterest buttons. That's really all I do there. And now you do have an SEO tab over here, and it has this thing called focus keywords. You can kind of hover and it'll give you a little bit more of an idea of what that's about. To be honest, I don't really do any of this in here. And again, I know I don't fully use Narrative to its full extent. That being said, I still think it's a great tool. And again, there's more to this tool other than just building these collages. Also, another thing I should mention too is that you can actually do your entire blog to include the text itself inside of Narrative. So if you want to include text up above this first image, and then maybe as you scroll down, there's a moment, maybe there was something about this moment where she had this reaction where I wanted to do text in between these images right here and explain what was going on. You may have come across people who do their blogs that way, where they insert text every few images and they talk about the images themselves. If you wanted to do that, you definitely could do that here as well. Now, one other thing I will mention while we are in here is if you are concerned that because this is a paid tool, if you're concerned that, what if you ever want to get away from Narrative, or what if Narrative just as an app goes away? What if it just doesn't exist one day? Am I going to lose all of my blogs? No, not necessarily. So the great thing about this tool is it kind of operates like any other blogging tool that's out there that allows you to create these image collages. Most other tools, basically you just build it like this and then it spits out a bunch of JPEG images and then you upload those manually to your website. You can use Narrative here the same way as you would use some of those other tools. And essentially what you do is you come up here to the upper right hand corner, click on this button, and it would give you the ability to start exporting this as either a single JPEG image or a series of JPEG images that you would then upload manually to your website. So if you ever wanted to, say, get away from using this, you started using it, and then let's say a year from now, you no longer want to use it, all you would have to do is go back into here, export all the JPEG images for these individual blogs, then go back to your website and just update it manually and then remove the script that you're going to eventually get through this. So that is something to be aware of. You definitely can get away from using Narrative in the future and not lose all of your blogs. So I'm not intending on doing that, so I'm gonna go ahead and X out of that. Now the next thing you're gonna want to do is you're gonna come down here to publish. Now if you are on, like, say, WordPress, there's going to be a WordPress plugin for your site that's going to allow you to make this process a little bit easier. It'll just kind of automatically transfer everything over into a blog on your WordPress site. Since I am currently on Squarespace, the way it is going to work is I'm basically going to get a script. So a bunch of HTML, like JavaScript stuff that I'm going to get, I'm going to copy it, take it back over to my Squarespace site, inject that into my blog, and then it'll actually create the dynamic link back to Narrative itself. But we're going to cover that here in just a second. So what I'm going to do is I'm come down here and hit publish. And then what it's going to do is it's going to go ahead and actually create the blog itself. And then once it's done, it's going to give me a link to a script, again, that I can copy and then take back over to Squarespace. So we're going to go ahead and let Narrative do its thing. It's building the blog at the moment. Once it's done doing that, then I'll show you guys how to install it onto Squarespace. All right, guys, here we go. So Narrative has finished creating the blog itself. And so now that that's done, you'll see down here I've got update blog, which doesn't make sense because I actually haven't changed anything yet. But you'll see right here I get this copy link button that highlights up. So I'm going to go ahead and click on that. and you're going to get all of the script that now gets copied to your clipboard. So now the next thing you need to do, if you're on Squarespace or Wix, then what you need to do is go back over to your Squarespace or Wix website, and then basically you'll just insert this as you'll insert the script into a code block and build your blog that way. So if you're on WordPress, I don't have a WordPress site at the moment to show you guys how to do your end of it, but Narrative, I'm sure, has some great support tools that would allow you to, or that'll walk you through that process, but it should be pretty straightforward. So let's hop over into my website and the back end of it, and I'll show you guys how to build a blog. All right, so we're now into the back end of my blog, or not my blog, but my website. So now what you need to do if you're on Squarespace is go over to Pages, navigate to your blog page, which I did not mean to do that, but that kind of worked. All right, so then here's my blog. Here's the list of all the blogs that I have. So I'm gonna go ahead and obviously create a new one by hitting the plus sign up here. And then depending on when you're watching this video, with Squarespace, they're constantly updating things. So I mean, this could be slightly different for you if this is even just like a week after I made this video. If it's a year later or 2 years later, it'll probably be very similar, but some things may have changed. So I'm gonna go ahead and enter a very basic post title. So I'm not a super expert on SEO by any means. Don't take my word as gospel. There's some really great resources out there like fuelyourphoto.com and some other great groups. But generally speaking, I'm going to keep my title probably somewhat generic for this video. I'll probably go into more depth and really think about a unique title after the video. But just for, again, education's sake, I'm just going to make this something simple like let's see, Colvin House, nope, Chicago engagement photo session, something like that. The reason why I'm going with something like this, even though this may not be the final title I use, again, like I talked about in the keywords for the file name, I'm kind of doing the same thing. It's keywords, right? So Colvin House Chicago engagement photo, Chicago engagement photo session. It's got a couple different variations of some potentially relevant keyword phrases that people may be searching for if they're looking for photo examples, so they might be able to find my work and then therefore find me. So I'm gonna have a text block right here. This is right here eventually where I'm going to put, I'll put all of my blog text. I don't go super in depth as far as writing super detailed blogs for my couples or the weddings or the engagements. I do my best to try to write somewhere between 300 to 500 words, but my main goal is just to hit that minimum of 300. Now, one thing with creating text for your blog, and I'm not gonna write it all out here, I'll leave that for you guys. And again, I'm not a super SEO expert, but what I will say is, as far as giving you guys a few tips for creating the text, is one, try to break it into like three paragraphs of about 3 to 4 sentences each, and that should get you somewhere close to about 300 words. So it's really not that much, but definitely try to get at least about 300 words. Again, that's for SEO purposes. And then within that 300 words, try to naturally work in some relevant keywords about whatever was going on. What you don't want to do though is what's called keyword stuffing. And by that is something like that would be like if I were to sit down here and write something like, I photographed this Chicago engagement session at Colvin House Chicago on the north side of Chicago. Colvin House Chicago engagements are a great place to photograph your engagement session photos. Colvin House Chicago is such a great venue for weddings as well. You kind of get what I mean. Like you're forcing a bunch of keywords into your phrasing. Google is not going to look very favorably upon that. Like 10 or 15 years ago, you could kind of get away with that a little bit more. But in more recent years, Google has definitely evolved to kind of be able to recognize that you're keyword stuffing. And they'll definitely de-rank your website to some degree and give you some negative SEO juice. So you don't want to be doing things like that. Just fit in relevant keywords where it's natural within your writing, and that's going to be kind of the best strategy you can take. But beyond that, as far as actually creating the blog and injecting your photo collage, what you're going to do is you're going to come down here and you're going to inject a code block. So I'm going to go ahead and scroll down until I find it. So it's right here. So you're going to get your code block. You're going to have your generic code with the hello world. You're going to go ahead and delete that. Now, again, if you remembered from the Narrative app, you hit the copy link. It copied all the script to my clipboard, so I should just be able to hit Command V, and there you go. It's going to paste all of the script into this code block, and you can see you immediately get a preview of what you're going to get. Go ahead and hit apply. And then what you can do is you can hit save or save and publish. If you, well, what the hell, I'll just go ahead and hit save and publish. I can always come back and unpublish it, just for, again, argument's sake. So once you do that, now essentially this is live on your website. And so if somebody were to go to this page on my website, they would find all these images here. And you can see that script, it then makes all these images available, and it does all of your borders, and it pulls in all your images, and it also does like a lazy loading type of thing where it only loads the images that are actually coming on the screen. So again, that helps with like page load speed, page load times, which is, again, it's good for your SEO. And again, as you saw earlier in the video when I did the Pinterest save button, you can see it's now up here in the upper left hand corner. And again, I'll get back to that in another video and why that's useful, and part of the overall bigger scheme of the building out your website and your blog. But yeah, you can see all the images are here and they're looking good. Also, if you hover on the image, you'll see it's got the file name I created, so Colvin House Chicago engagement photos. So again, you know, that file name is by default going to become your alt tag text for Google. So that's what Google is going to scrape when it's looking at these images. If it just has like DSC0014.jpg, that tells Google absolutely nothing. Google has no idea what that image is about. Now, there is some argument to be made that at some point Google is getting better with AI to be able to scan an image and be able to determine what it is without alt text. That is definitely something they're working on. But the best thing you can do for yourself for SEO is don't just leave your images with a generic file name like, you know, 2020-01-14-DSC001. Again, that tells Google absolutely nothing about what's contained within the photo. And that is not something that a potential wedding client is going to search for when they're looking for examples of an engagement photo place, location, or a wedding venue, or photographers, or whatever it may be. That's not going to be a term that people are searching for. Something like Colvin House Chicago, that would be. So that all ties into the greater scheme of what's going on here. And again, we'll cover that more in other videos. But guys, that's really it for this video. That's the whole process of basically creating this blog. As I mentioned earlier, obviously write more text. That's a whole nother animal in itself. But mostly what I wanted to focus on was this tool for creating the image collages, which for me has taken a lot of the pain out of creating these wedding and engagement blogs. So if you guys are interested, again, I'll leave the link down below to find this tool and to download it for yourself. And anyways, guys, hopefully you guys found it useful. Hopefully it wasn't too hard to follow, made sense. If you have any questions about this process at all, if there's anything that was confusing, leave those comments down below. I'll do my best to answer them as quickly as I can. Otherwise, subscribe if you want to, like this video if you found it useful. And until next time, stay safe, keep shooting, and I'll catch you in the next video. Peace.